Hello and welcome back to Coven. This is season 4, episode 2. We're back.
We are back.
How's it going?
Good. How are you? It's good to be back at Hyde Street Studio.
Yeah, it's really good. It's been a minute. We kept having our studio days pushed back just because life is crazy right now.
Yes.
So we're excited to get it up and moving, and it's going to be a sort of weird season this time. We're doing some different things. I think I'll explain that in season 1, or in episode 1, though, a little more in depth. But without further ado, let's get into it.
Okay. You have a magic moment?
I do have a magic moment. My magic moment is just about the fragrance shoot that we had.
Oh.
And just how incredible it felt. Coco and I are coming out with a fragrance line with Mauricio, our third partner in this. Planet's Perfumes is what it's going to be called. You'll hear a lot more about that later on in the season. And we had our video shoot for all of the perfumes, for all the fragrances with Karina in San Luis Obispo about a month ago. And it was so perfect. It felt so incredible and aligned. And it was crazy because I met Mauricio less than a year ago.
Wow.
And to have it all coming together in the way that it has, that was a very magical moment for me.
Yeah. That, you know what? That's a good one. I think I'm just going to say that was my magic moment too.
It was extremely magical. It was a very good, even though on the drive home I had a crazy experience.
Well, it was typical. I mean, to me, I was like, that sounds to me like Saturn, Neptune conjunct your natal Saturn at 0 degrees.
Yeah, maybe that is my magic moment, even though it was not magical feeling. It was very on brand with the astrology. I guess I'll explain a little bit. I don't want to get too in depth with it, or it's like TMI, like pretty gross. So February 20th, 2026 was the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, and it was at 0 degrees Aries, which my natal Saturn is also at 0 degrees Aries. And so I've been feeling my Saturn return really intensely, especially because it's coupled with Neptune, which just adds this feeling of like dissociation and confusion. And Coco and I were in San Luis Obispo. We were driving back that day, I think, or the day before.
It was like 6 o'clock in the morning because I had to get the car back.
Yeah.
So it was dark outside. It was torrential downpour.
Pouring
the wind
down rain.
Was whipping everything around.
Yeah. And that whole night I couldn't sleep at all because I had a huge migraine come on. And I haven't had a migraine. I used to get them, but I haven't had a migraine in years. But it was so bad, and it was the kind of migraine where you're puking, which that's the TMI part. I don't want to scare anybody off.
She was throwing up the whole way home, poor thing. Like, I was having to pull over, like everything.
Just like a 4-hour drive, torrential downpour on like back windy roads, having to like pull over and just like throw up, get back.
It was so cute because she was like, because I couldn't see anything, and I was like kind of stressed out about the weather, and just like there were branches falling down and everything was crazy. And then she's like, this might be inconvenient, but I think I'm going to throw up. Can you pull over? And I was like, yep.
I felt really bad. You were really sweet about it. I did feel really bad. I was like, this is the worst time in the whole world to do this, but I think I need to throw up. Anyway.
It wasn't bad at all.
So I guess that's my magic moment. Is the astrology was crazy because like Neptune and nausea feels nausea. I never know how to say that word. Feels fitting, and then Saturn and a migraine. Like a migraine just feels very Saturn Neptune.
Yeah.
This confusion, this like pain, restriction, but dissociative.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then right on top of your natal Saturn, and you hadn't had a migraine, you said, since you were a kid. Mm-hmm. And so your Saturn return.
Yeah, coming back. Yeah, probably since like high school is when I had intense migraines, which would be interesting to see if it was like around 15, like Saturn opposition.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into it.
Okay.
This is the part of the show where I'm going to give Coco a birth chart for someone who I've researched and will be telling the story of. Coco doesn't know who I've researched, so she's going to be doing a blind birth chart reading to try and figure out what kind of person this is, or who this is, or, what have you.
Whoa. Okay, first of all, is the birth time accurate?
Not sure. And I was really, really conflicted about the ascendant. I did pick the ascendant. I didn't find any info about what anybody else was saying about an ascendant. Based on transits, based on her life, based on her personality, I picked this. I kept coming back to this one.
Okay.
There's others that fit too, but I kept coming back to this one, so I just stuck and went with it.
Okay. Okay, so Neptune, sextile, or moon sextile Neptune. This person meets the world through a Neptunian lens, artistic probably. When I think of like Neptune in the first house, I think of like how Sheer Height dressed, kind of
Yeah.
like just like flowy and beautiful, but confusing maybe a little bit. And in Leo, so probably feels the need to be seen. I mean, from one Leo rising to
Yeah.
two Leo risings, and like an artist of some kind. Just because the moon Neptune sextile as well. And then it looks like there's like a lot going on with the moon opposing Mars. So and then the stellium, Mercury, Sun, Venus, Mars, stellium in the ninth house. An academic, or an astrologer, or a author, maybe a publisher.
You're doing a really good job.
Okay, good, thanks. And then Chiron in the eighth in Pisces, also opposing Moon. So drawing from their wounds in order to create. Also Pluto and Saturn, both in Cancer in the 12th house. My Saturn is in the 12th house. For me, the way that I experience it, because I have Saturn in Cancer in the 12th house, is the critic with a megaphone. So a lot of like insecurities, but also like Saturn there in Cancer is your ability to transcend despair and to have a different relationship with the Saturnian archetype that is like self-nurturing. And so maybe something about transcendence and empowering themselves through transcendence because of Pluto there as well. And then Jupiter in the 10th. So this person must be very well known then, because expansion around how they're perceived and how they're seen. And then interesting, there's so like remember we were talking about unaspected planets. Jupiter looks like it's only aspecting Chiron and the North Node. So almost like there's like another thing with like concentrated energy in this area of expansiveness in the public eye.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about like our perfume, like honestly, like creating something that is something sensual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
definitely.
And then Uranus in Aquarius, sextiling Mercury, or Mercury sextiling Uranus, speaking out about awakening, rebellion, writing about awakening, rebellion, writing about, or emailing or texting or communicating in some way, about rebellion and or awakening, and or revolution, or revolutionizing something that maybe has to do with relationships. Yeah, the stellium. So driven, probably, or yeah, driven or angry, or maybe both at different times. Yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, that was really good.
Oh, good.
As
Yay.
usual. Per usual. Yeah, I'm excited to dive into more and point out things as we go along through her story, but you nailed it.
Awesome.
As always. So the person that I am bringing into our coven today, or welcoming into our coven today, is Leonora Carrington. Are you familiar?
No.
Amazing. Josh, would you mind pulling up her picture? That's her.
Why does she look familiar?
Well, she is quite famous. She is a surrealist painter and writer.
Oh.
She's imaginative, rebellious, and otherworldly. And she was born in England, but she spent the majority of her life in Mexico, where she died in 2011. So she was born in 1917, immigrated to Mexico during World War II, and Mexico considers her a British Mexican artist, but I didn't want to introduce her that way because she was British born, and I didn't want to she's entirely from the UK. But she, throughout her life, kind of rejected, she pretty much cut herself off from her upbringing and fully
and
found a home in Mexico.
Embrace the Mexican culture. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Leonora, is that what you said?
Leonora Carrington.
Leonora, okay.
Yeah.
That's so funny, Leonor, and she's a Leo rising.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that. But again, the rising sign, she was tough. She was tough because I think ultimately this Leo rising makes sense, but I was torn between Scorpio rising and Capricorn rising and even Gemini rising and at one point Virgo rising. There were so many different things just because of different things in her life that I was trying to match up, but
I always have a hard time with that too. There's always Leo. A few. Yeah.
Yeah. And with the Leo rising chart, something I think is interesting, she and I have a very similar chart. She has Uranus and Aquarius in the 7th house, as do I. She has her Lilith at 16 degrees Leo, which is exactly the same as mine. And if she's a Leo rising, also in the 1st house.
Wow.
Which I thought was special.
Yeah.
And then she has that Aries stellium in the 9th house, which I also have.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm laughing because you and I always pick, even if they're not, if the people themselves are or not similar, which I'm not going to say whether they are or they're not, like you're comparing yourself to this person. When I was looking at my person's chart, I'm like, I feel like a very strong.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm excited to hear who your person is this week. The more that I looked into Leonora, the more that I just resonated with her personality and parts of her story. But before we begin, I do want to show you one of her paintings to get an idea of what we're working with.
Yeah.
Josh, would you do the honors? She painted over 2,000 works of art in her lifetime.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'll put that up on YouTube for
that
people
is so
too.
cool.
Sick, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
She was super into themes of transformation and mysticism and the occult and human hybrid, and she was different from most surrealists of her surrealist counterparts in the sense that she wasn't interested in Freud at all. She didn't care. She just wanted to paint like mystical themes, and like she was very tapped into the imaginal realm. So she wasn't focused on like eroticism as much. She was focused on like transformation and transcendence and just like mystical and the animal world. Like she painted a lot of animals and nature things.
I feel like her Neptune in the first house like really works. Yeah.
Very
And then
imaginal.
transformation, Pluto in the 12th house, like transcending. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so she painted over 2,000 works of art, but she was also a writer. She wrote 2 novels, a memoir, and several short stories and plays. But while she is very, very famous in Mexico, like considered to be one of the most influential artists to come from Mexico, but
British Mexican. Yeah.
yeah. But from what I was researching, it seems that Mexico claims her. They're like, nope, she's one of ours. You guys don't get her.
Good.
But while she's very famous there, she has largely been overshadowed by her male contemporaries.
Of course.
Specifically that of Max Ernst, who was very famous at the time, and her spotlight is often reduced to her love affair with him, which we'll get into later. A lot of people in the West and in Europe and in the United States are only familiar with her in relation to Max Ernst. So let's begin at the beginning, where she was born. She was born in Lancashire, England, on April 6th, 1917. To a wealthy family with new money, because her father owned a textile manufacturer, or a textile mill, and just became really successful. Right place, right time.
What is a textile mill?
Clothes, fabrics, I think.
Okay, fabric.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she was born in 1917, so perhaps this was at a time when clothing was starting to become...
Like mass produced? Oh, okay.
Question mark? I don't know the history with that, but that would make sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's starting to become really anyway, they're very wealthy. But it's not old money, so they're not very like comfortable being in society. They're like trying really hard to make sure that they have a rightful place in society. She is the only daughter of 4 children, so she has 3 brothers, and her mother is the daughter of an Irish doctor. So she has Celtic history that she grew up hearing about. Her mom told her bedtime stories of Celtic fairy tales and folklore, and they grew up in a home, an estate called Crookie Hall, which was this massive Gothic revival mansion that inspired so much of her imagination in early paintings, and she reported it as being very haunted.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so she had a very like imaginative youth, even though it was also very restrictive because they were pretty, especially her father was pretty intense with how she came across and how she represented the family. And because she was the only daughter, she was expected to marry up to help with the family.
Yeah.
So they made her be a debutante.
Really fast, her Neptune, Mercury, Saturn, Mercury trine, Saturn in the 12th house, Mercury, being able to see, I feel like people with 12th house placements too have like a direct connection to the Mundus Imaginalis.
Yep. Yeah. The imaginal world, which doesn't mean imaginary.
Yes, it does not mean it's an imaginary world. It is a third realm that exists.
She talked a lot about liminal spaces. She talked a lot about this. Yeah. She talked.
I'm sorry. Just once again.
Similar with yours.
Yes, that's so funny.
Yeah, she was very deeply connected to this space, and we'll get into it more, but all of her paintings come from that space, and she hated explaining them because she was like,
Yeah.
Everything that you need to know is right
there.
there. Whatever I wanted you to see, you see. Like, there's nothing more to it.
I love it.
So she grew up in this crazy haunted estate. Her dad sent her to 2 different convent boarding schools where she was expelled from both.
All right, good for her.
Yeah, she had a really hard time with authority,
Rebellious.
especially with her dad. And I just think that all of the Aries in the 9th house is just very much rebelling against authority, but also the Leo rising, and also I just connect with that with the Lilith in the 1st house. It's just having a really hard time fitting into anybody's expectations for you. That with the Aries stuff resonated.
And her Uranus in the 7th, or Uranus in Aquarius too. That's like double rebellious energy right there.
Don't I know it? I was never expelled though, but also she has all those planets in the 12th house, and the 12th house shows like being, it just feels like the energy of being expelled, like being kicked out.
Oh, really?
Like,
can you say more about that?
12th house being like exile and isolation. And I feel like that's the energy of being expelled from school. I feel like could fit into that energy of like sort of being exiled.
I see. Okay.
From a community. But so she was expelled from her Catholic schools, and something that the nuns said when they sent her back was, "This child is capable of neither study or play." That was really funny.
Oh my God.
But yeah, she was said to be very rebellious, and as the only daughter, this wasn't great because she was expected to marry up. Her parents made her attend the debutante ball, presenting her to court.
But
Famously, she ended up writing a short story about this where she just hated it. She didn't want anything to do with it.
Because it's stupid.
And when she went to the ball, she ended up bringing along her copy of Aldous Huxley's Eyeless in Gaza to read instead. And ended up receiving no proposals. So,
oh my God, I love her.
Yeah, so she didn't get into the marriage trap, and luckily she had sounds like a really good mother. There wasn't a lot of info on her mom, but sounds like she felt close to her mom. Her mom is what inspired the Celtic folklore imagination with her, but also her mom gave her her first art book, Herbert Reed's Surrealism, and sent her to art school after this. When she received no proposals, she's sent off to art school in Florence, Italy, where she studied Renaissance painters. Shortly after, when she is 19 years old, she attends the Surrealist exhibition in London, where she meets German painter Max Ernst, who at the time is 45.
And how old was she?
19.
Oh my God, these men.
And she knew who he was. He was very established at the time. He was sort of the center of the Surrealist movement. She was really invested in the Surrealist movement. She was really excited to be there. And they began a love affair, even though he was married, for 3 years. And it kind of skyrocketed her to the center of everything, too. So that's how she began her career. It's also in Italy when she was, I think it was at art school, or maybe it was at the exhibition, she meets from Spain, the Spanish painter Remedios Varo.
I don't know who that is.
She is another Surrealist painter, and we'll talk about her later because they end up being besties for life. She ends up moving to Mexico as well, and she and somebody else, they form a little coven.
Oh, cool. That's amazing.
So she starts this love affair with Max, and she finds herself at the heart of the Surrealist movement, and her father learns of this, of her affair with Max, and is like, her dad seems like a hard ass, and he seemed like he definitely was too strict and too hard on her, wanting her to conform. But at the same time, we've had much worse fathers on the podcast. Like, there's much worse fathers that we've seen. Oh, yeah. And like, a lot of the things that I read, I was like, I think I see where he's coming from. Like, his artist daughter is trying to flee to Paris with a 45-year-old established art man.
I'm not like a fan of like locking my children up if like they've
Yeah.
done anything, or if I don't want them to like, be anywhere, but I might do that if a
Yeah.
45-year-old man was preying on my daughter.
Yeah. I was like, reading this, I was like, I kind of see where
Yeah.
he's coming from. But then again, she, in interviews, has said that she was more afraid of her father than she was of Hitler, who was like very, this was like, right. This is in the 1930s. So,
Interesting.
So I think there's probably more to it. Like, he was probably pretty intense. But he tries to get Max Ernst arrested for creating pornographic art, because he would paint a lot of nudity, because he just doesn't want anything to happen. So Ernst moves to Paris and she follows, and her dad does not succeed in getting him arrested. She follows him to Paris, and her father responds by saying, well, you can never obscure the threshold of my house again. And she never speaks to him again.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. It's just interesting because like, even though like that Saturn in the 12th house placement in Cancer, like, that there must be some dad stuff that, because like, yeah, I haven't spoken to my dad in like years and years and years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That exile from the father.
Yeah.
Saturn, and yours is in Cancer too.
Yep. It's
In
like
the 12th house,
it's like
yeah.
at 16 degrees. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I was like looking down here at, fourth house is empty. My Uranus is like right at the IC
Yeah.
right there, and I'm like super rebellious against the patriarchy, if you
Yeah.
don't know, but
You? That's crazy.
I know, I know. But yeah, that's very so that's just an interesting placement to kind of look at in the future, I think.
Yeah. If she was a Scorpio rising, which I was debating on, the reason I was really convinced with Scorpio rising for a little bit is because it would put that Uranus in Aquarius in the fourth house. And she just has there were a lot of things she said that alluded to never really feeling like settled.
Well, I mean, but maybe her like art it sounds like, she was fine with not speaking to him ever again, and then she just like focused on her art after that. So maybe he wasn't as influential as other people's who have different placements might be.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he definitely was very significant. I think she always talked about him more than her mother. So I think he was pretty influential in her life, but yeah, it was a pretty early break because at this point she is like 20, I think.
Oh my gosh.
When
yeah,
she
that's
leaves
really
to
young.
move to Paris, yeah. But she's in love and she is free, and in Paris she's like really in the center of the surrealist movement, and she's feeling super at home and super accepted for the first time ever, because the surrealists at this time were essentially anarchists. They were anti-bourgeois, anti-establishment, and anti-everything that she just escaped, that she hated her whole life, that she felt really trapped by. So she felt finally like she was free. Their relationship is creative and electric, but it quickly becomes really suffocating for her, of course.
Creative and electric. Uranus in the 7th house. Electric. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, Uranus in the 7th house in Aquarius, somebody with that placement, dating people who are so eccentric, who are so just quite rebellious, outside the lines. But also I think it's interesting because I have dated somebody when I was in my 20s. I'm still in my 20s. In my early 20s, I dated somebody in their 40s, and I think that's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's creative and electric, but it quickly becomes suffocating. I didn't dive into this so much, but it sounds like it was not a super healthy relationship in ways that she talked about it after. It was also hard because male surrealists were obsessed with femme enfant at the time, which translates to women children. They were obsessed with the idea of innocence and eroticism. And so these male surrealists, exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's a tale
Okay.
as old as time.
Okay. So like I'm realizing more and more and more, this whole thing about aging women and how, youth equates to beauty and with everything that's been coming out and everything that we've been learning, it's like, how did I not see this before?
Yeah.
That patriarchal beauty standards are rooted in like pedophilia.
100%. It's
The
entirely,
younger I am, the
yeah.
more attractive I am. What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true, and it was alive and well, not hiding at all in this era.
So, can you say that again? So, it's femme
enfant. Which is, yeah.
Okay,
just,
like feminine infant.
Yeah, essentially.
Gross.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because they were obsessed with the idea of innocence and purity, and so they loved, like young, pure, innocent-seeming women that they could be their muses, that could be their muse.
Oh my God.
Because they were obsessed with, like, eroticism and Freud and, like, capturing, like, desire through surrealist art.
I wonder if this is where it started.
Started or just...
Continued on?
Yeah, just, I feel like it was the same thing as had been there. It was just like another expression of it. Like these are all just like different avenues for patriarchy to
You're right. Yeah.
express itself.
Yeah. I have like a visceral reaction when I hear the word purity. I read this paper by this person called Alexis Shotwell. If you ever get a chance, it's called Against Purity. And it just opened my eyes to the whole concept of purity, how it's rooted in white supremacy and et cetera, et cetera. So if you get a chance, Alexis Shotwell, Against Purity.
Yeah. I'll have to read that because I also feel that with the word purity.
Yeah.
I think growing up with that word so often associated with me, it feels very like
well, yeah, it feels like well, first of all, it's a standard that's impossible.
Yeah.
What exactly even is purity?
Right.
What does that even mean? And like something that's like, so clean that it's not what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, something that's like so clean that it hasn't been I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for.
corrupted.
Sorry. Yeah. But that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
And it plays into dualisms and patriarchy and blah 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 blah. So yeah.
Very interesting. But yeah, so I don't like, he loved her and was so excited by her, but her like Lilith and Leo in the first house, I'm like, that's another thing that I relate to because I don't know, I feel like a lot of my life I was called, like, I was perceived as being like really naive and like innocent and pure in that way, but then at the same time there was like this weird like sexual like power dynamic a lot of the time that was like underlying a lot of things that was like coming from people that I was trying to like figure out. It took me a really long time to come to terms with that or to recognize it and be able to navigate it. And so I just like, I feel like I was able to picture how this kind of went down for her.
I see. Yeah.
Because she said, because the femme enfant thing, it was essentially women who could be around. They weren't really seen or respected as artists, but they were the muses for these surrealist painters. And she scoffed at this, saying, I didn't have time to be anyone's muse. I was too busy rebelling against my family and learning to be an artist. So even if she was a muse, she definitely was not
playing into it.
Yeah. She was fully an artist and created some of her first works, I think, in France. In 1939, Max is arrested by the French government for being a German citizen, referring to him as an enemy alien, and put into an internment camp. Which, this is maybe ridiculous, but I had to Google the difference between an internment camp and a concentration camp. Are you familiar with?
Yeah, we had internment camps here for the Japanese. Yeah, and concentration camps were everybody knows what a concentration camp is.
Yeah, well, what I was gonna say, because I was like, well, what's the difference? And when I Googled it, is essentially, there is no difference.
No.
Internment camp is the word that
The United States
the United States uses for the people who we think are the good guys, who are described as being the good guys.
Yeah, they're not making internment camps anymore. What are they making now? They're making detention facilities.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. It's just
Tomato.
Yeah. Completely illegal
Yeah. Bullshit.
Confinement. Yeah. So he was taken by the French government because he was an enemy alien, because he was a German citizen. And then was released shortly after, but then he was captured and imprisoned by the Nazis for making degenerate art. So no governments liked him, because the surrealists were like anarchists, more or less. And so obviously Nazis didn't like that, but also the French didn't like him because he was German. So he's like imprisoned. He doesn't stay for long, but when he is taken away, Leonora has a nervous breakdown, a complete psychic break. She flees to Spain with a friend, but in Spain her father learns of this and has her committed to a mental institution against her will. 12th house, Saturn, Pluto.
I know. My biggest fear is that I'm going to die in a prison cell. Well, because Saturn in the 12th house, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely is just feeling exiled and feeling on the outside, and I think it does tend to show up in confinement or prison.
Yeah.
You're not gonna die in a prison cell.
No, I'm not.
But I have the chart for when she was taken to the mental institution, because she wrote a memoir, and I have the exact date from when she was taken. So
this is so interesting. So her Jupiter had just, or Jupiter in the sky had just transited. Well, it's still it's in a loose conjunction there. And so bringing into material form, because Saturn is there too, conjunct Jupiter in her 10th house. That's interesting. And Uranus is there too. And then Pluto conjunct her Neptune. Oh my gosh. Or yeah.
Yep.
That's that must have gone on for a while, right?
Not that long. I think it was no more than a year, a couple months, a few months maybe. But the Chiron conjunct Saturn in the 12th house too, I was looking at, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and then also Neptune opposing her. Let's see. Neptune opposing her Chiron. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
My chart is really hard to read.
So Neptune right here opposing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Her Chiron. Yeah, right there in the 8th house. So did you say she wrote a memoir?
Yeah, after 3 years after being released. But yeah, the Neptune opposing her natal Chiron definitely feels like nervous breakdown, especially in the 8th house. The Chiron in the 8th house.
Hidden things. Yeah, the underworld. Yeah, she definitly went on an underworld excursion.
So the name of her memoir is Down Under.
Oh, no way! Yeah. Wow.
And I actually have it right here. Down below.
Down below. Interesting. Oh my God, that's so interesting. And I'm sure that this is her artwork too, right?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So in this, I think that's a memoir pretty much about her time in this facility. But it was horrible. She was given powerful, harmful drugs and abused, and it significantly influenced her art and her life moving forward. When she gets out of the facility, she marries this man who has Mexican citizenship, Renato Leduc, who, it's not a marriage out of love. He cares about her, they're friends, and he wants to help her flee Europe because it's 1940 in Europe and
Something we might have to do soon.
Yeah, it's crumbling, and if you're not like with it, then you're an enemy, and so it's just not a good place to be. And she's like, obviously can't stay. Things are clearly not well for her in Europe, and so she marries Renato, and he brings her overseas. Before they head to Mexico, they stop in New York for a year, where she meets even more surrealists and famous artists. Before making her way to Mexico.
So that's interesting because, like, that stellium, I was thinking, obviously, like, publishing or writing or something, but all of this travel,
exactly.
she's in Germany and she's in Paris.
And she ends up in a foreign country, different from her own upbringing, different from her lineage. That's why, another reason why I picked the Leo rising, because all the ninth house in Aries.
Which, would make sense. Her identity seemed like, a lot of it was swirling around not wanting to be a part of her home country and wanting to go somewhere else and adopt that as her own.
Yeah. And she was very feminist. She hated the patriarchal European traditions, lens. She really identified with like Celtic folklore and her Celtic roots, but she never cared for like she liked Catholic mysticism. I think she liked the aesthetics of it and the symbols of it. But with most parts of like Christianity or like just more like typical like British things, society, she really rebelled against and didn't really want any part of.
Interesting.
Yeah, so then they go to Mexico, but we should go ahead and take a break.
Oh, okay.
And be right back.
Okie dokie.
And then we'll tell you all about Mexico.
Okay. Welcome back.
And we're back. That's our first ever break. Live on air. It's our first ever time taking a break in the podcast. How did we do?
So much, too.
Okay. So, getting just to like the really juicy stuff. Like that was the backstory, but now we're getting to like the meat of her life. So her life really begins in many ways when she gets to Mexico. Even though she knows no Spanish, she knows no one, but Mexico was at the time offering easy citizenship for political refugees.
Kind of like Canada's doing for us right now.
Yeah. Yep. And Mexico had also just been through their own revolution and they were trying to reconnect with their indigenous roots at the time. And this is in like the 40s. And they were in a spiritual and cultural sort of identity crisis, very similar to what Leonora was also going through. And so it felt immediately aligned, even though she came to Mexico very isolated, very alone. She spent so much time alone. Her husband, Renato, eventually separated from her. It wasn't like a super intense love relationship, but he said that she spent more time speaking to the dogs than to him.
I love her.
So she's in Mexico. She's pretty alone, but she just starts to come alive in Mexico. And eventually she meets other expats, including Chiqui Weiss, who became her husband and her father to her 2 sons. She met him and just thought and said, this is a man who will make a very good father to my children. And I couldn't really find a lot about their relationship dynamic, but it seemed relatively healthy. I think they were together until he passed for several decades. And she found children and family to be crucially important here. She wanted to raise her children opposite of how she was raised. She had 2 sons. She wanted to give them a chance at having a stable family and feeling like free and creative and expressive in a way that she never really felt. She, I think, also was feeling really strongly. There's a quote that she I didn't write it down, but there's a quote that she said in one of these documentaries of just how important children are, because the love with children is unconditional, and they're the only relationships that will never leave you, which obviously is not necessarily true. But I think she just had this intense feeling of everybody that she loves abandoning her or leaving her or letting her down. And with her children, like, that's something that she can just have stable.
Yeah, she knows that her children can never abandon her because she'll always be their mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she knows that she wanted to be a really good mother. It was really important to her. And there is a quote by Karen Eckersley in her essay, Post-Human Destinations, Indigenous Cultures in Leonora Carrington's Mexican Ove by, Mexican Ove. I think I'm saying that word right. Oeuvre.
Au revoir?
It's not au revoir. That's like au revoir is like the goodbye. Ouve, I think.
Oh, I don't know how to pronounce it then.
Ouve?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's from this essay. And she says, only once she was separated from Ernst and his influence did her work begin to assert a confident power of its own, as her Mexican Ouve demonstrates. She and Remedios Varro, found their escape from the stranglehold of male-dominated European surrealism to be creatively fruitful. And she supposedly painted some of her most prolific works with a baby in one arm and a brush in the other.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Another quote, this one from Jonathan P. Eburn, says, the experience of death featured in Carrington's work from this period, her period of living in Mexico and freshly moving there, is no longer the death envisaged by the post-war European philosophers, as a limit, as dissolution, as absolute disappearance, but as a death recast in terms of a pre-Columbian funerary culture that figures it as a mode for recirculation.
Okay. The Saturn, Pluto, and the 12th house.
Yeah.
And then, like, yeah, her moon, too, is just connected to everything. So it makes sense that, like, her motherly instincts, too, would be wrapped up with her artwork, because there's that sextile from her moon to Neptune.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I was wondering where her motherly instincts would show up in the chart, because it's very independent and rebellious, and you wouldn't think, based on her upbringing, that she would want to be a mother and so present of a mother so bad, but
well,
she was.
Moon in the 3rd house, and like she's learning from being a mother.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
and it's all connected to, you know, what's going on in her 9th house as well.
Directly
and
feeding
Chiron.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So she is just finding herself a lot more aligned with the culture of Mexico, but specifically pre-Columbian, like pre-colonial Mexico, post-revolution Mexico, and connecting with Mexican indigenous roots, specifically with the goddess culture, is something that she really resonates with. She suggests that human life and death are in fact a creative synthesis of flows, energies, and perpetual becoming. A lot of her paintings include animals and animal-human hybrids, so she makes it a lot more nature-focused than the male surrealists of the time were very like human-centered, anthropomorphic centered, and hers are more nature hybrid. Everything kind of meshes together. Oftentimes she depicts herself as a white horse in her paintings, or a hyena.
That's interesting. Okay, so her north node, if her north node is in the 6th house in Capricorn, which would mean that it would be ruled by Saturn over here in the 12th house, and is the only thing making an aspect to her Jupiter.
Yeah.
And I've heard like people describe the 6th house as like animal companions, the house of animal companions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a cool connection to draw. I wouldn't have caught that. That is super interesting. Yeah, she loved animals. She also really loved cats.
My favorite.
Yeah, she was around cats a lot. Yeah. Yeah, so her painting is just really coming to life here. Though she never really tried to publicize her work, she was not really about that, which is another reason why I was hesitant to call her a Leo rising, because in all of her interviews and everything that I heard and read about her, she really didn't care about recognition or fame or attention. She didn't even really want to give interviews. She never wanted to explain her work. She just had to paint, so she was painting.
Jupiter 10th house, unaspected.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't need the recognition.
Yeah. And I think the Lilith in the first house is a bit more of like hiding away, and Neptune also in the first house. Even though it's a Leo rising, there's a lot of things that are like...
And Neptune is retrograde.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of things that are like covering up her... Maybe she did have a desire to be seen, but it was just underneath a lot of layers of like... I think she probably valued recognition, but just was like, so she seemed to have such an attitude of like, whatever, I don't care what you think, like, I'm gonna do my thing, here you go.
And like Jupiter in Taurus too, in the 10th house, like at home, right? So but her home is like overseas Jupiter. It's just it's all right there.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'm feeling validated with the Leo rising chart.
Yeah, I think you did the right one.
Yeah, so she mostly just painted at this point to take care of her kids, but also just because she would always be painting. Like, it just was something that had to come out of her. She was really connected to this imaginal realm and was always like seeing these images and in relationship with these like characters and these stories. She became very close with two other expat artists, Remedios Varo and Katie Horna. Katie Horna was a Hungarian, I believe, photographer, but the three of them had fled to Mexico during the war, and they bonded over a shared interest of alchemy, astrology, tarot, the occult, and art.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's amazing.
So they formed a little coven. And they just became best friends. They later have been referred to as, oh, I guess I'm not quite to the coven part yet, but they were later referred to as the three witches of surrealism, which I thought was really fun, even though they never outright said they were witches, but they were really interested in all of those subjects and witchy things. She, at this time, also started learning about indigenous cosmologies, but also about Buddhism and Hinduism and just different cultures and religions from all over the world. And she was redefining herself at the same time that Mexico was, and she drew from Celtic myth, shapeshifters, folklore, and indigenous Mexican beliefs, along with feminist language and mystery, and just kind of a opposition to what the male surrealists at the time were focused on. She mixed multiple traditions. She was very syncretic. Multiple traditions in iconography, including Hinduism, Buddhism, Catholicism, Celtic folklore, Egyptian mythology, and indigenous Mexican cosmologies. She saw herself as just fully syncretic, which matched the surrealist movement as a whole, as well as with Mexico's political and cultural identity. And there's another quote from that essay that says, "Mexico suited Carrington, not because she was intoxicated by its otherness, but because it was a magical world with which she was already synchronized. Her own Irish heritage resonates with the themes that run through Mexico's ancestry." Which I thought was really interesting. I didn't realize how many similarities there were in Celtic mythology with
Mexican
indigenous
mythology.
Yeah, which I didn't for this episode. I didn't get a chance to dive into what exactly the similarities are, but it sounded like she felt like very familiar with indigenous beliefs because it's something that she recognized from Celtic beliefs.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out too. Yeah, because that's my my ethnic background, and I'd never would have thought to connect Celtic
Yeah. You
indigenous.
have Irish too?
I'm okay, literally 50% indigenous and 50% British.
Oh,
Like
wow.
like right down the center. My mom is like crazy about doing all kinds of
Yeah.
um
That's so
looking at our
fascinating.
ancestry. So,
Well, I've always liked Celtic mythology and Celtic folklore, but this has definitely made me want to dive into it a little bit deeper.
yeah.
I have my Celtic Christianity book up there.
Oh, I'll
Um,
have to borrow it.
yeah. Anyway, now we'll talk about the coven. So she's very close with these friends. They found a kinship in exile, and they eventually are referred to as the three witches of surrealism. They spend all their time together. They're, I think, all married, or I don't. Their husbands are irrelevant. They're just like besties.
Yeah.
Frida Kahlo actually referred to them as those European bitches. So I think that's really funny. I was trying to figure out like how she was perceived as somebody who came from like a rich family in the UK coming into Mexico and like immersing herself in indigenous traditions and painting with these like these icons and symbols. And it seemed generally like Mexico seems to like feel that she is one of theirs, especially because she rejected so intensely the European colonial patriarchal mindset. But Frida Kahlo doesn't seem to like them, so I'm sure there were mixed opinions. They were, as a trio, very resistant to male-dominated surrealism, but they they experimented with things like shamanic psychedelics, tarot readings, and occult practices. They would drink strange concoctions and write spells, practice automatic writing. They believed that women possessed particular powers.
Because we do.
They used only goddess imagery in their art. They made women the protagonists in all of their work. They used symbols of cats, hybrid human animals, and a lot of mirrors. They co-wrote plays together. And Leonora eventually painted a deck of major arcana in the tarot. So there's like a major arcana deck painted by her.
Ah, cool.
They also attended lectures on mysticism and psychology together, and they focused a lot on the question on how to make myth modern. So they seem really cool.
Yeah.
And I am going like so long with time, so I wanna start wrapping it up. But we're getting to the end here. Leonora stayed in Mexico for the remainder of her life. She was there for like 5 decades. She ended up helping to she co-founded the women's movement in Mexico in the 70s. And for this, she created a poster, a painting called Mujeres Conciencia.
Mujeres Conciencia.
Thank you. Josh, will you do the honors of pulling that up, please, if you found it?
Wow.
Yeah. So what is depicted here is two figures representing Eve, presenting each other with an apple. And the apple represents fecundity rather than the forbidden or sin. It symbolizes women taking back the original wisdom. And her connection with indigenous Mexican traditions is captured in this poster because at the top it features a sacred serpent from Aztec culture. I practiced the pronunciation, but I don't wanna mess it up.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl, and
Quetzalcoatl.
then this one too.
Let's see. Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, that sounds
Quetzalcoatl
correct.
and Quetzalcoatl. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Quetzalcoatl, but not the other one.
I wasn't either with the second one.
Yeah.
But winged Quetzalcoatl is in there. And then Quetzalcoatl, sacred serpent hermaphrodite, rises again in the tree of life where Eve gives Eve back the fruit of wisdom. Women take back the original wisdom was the inscription that she gave with this painting.
Wow. And the sphere. Oh, but it also looks like, it looks like a sphere, but it's also like wings.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's so amazing.
That's the snake woman with the wings. And then the Quetzalcoatl is the sacred serpent hermaphrodite.
Yeah. Wow, that is so cool. Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
Mm-hmm. So that was in the 70s, but then backing up a little bit in the 60s, following a lot of successful exhibitions in the country, Carrington was a well-known artist in Mexico, and the government chose her as the artist to create a mural that captured its post-colonial and post-revolutionary identity on the belief system of the Chiapas Indians, who were descendants of ancient Maya. Mm-hmm. And so she drew upon the ancient Mayan text Popol Vuh.
Mm-hmm. The Popol Vuh.
Combined with trips to the Chiapas, where she stayed with anthropologist Gertrude Blom, who introduced her to traditional Chiapas healers. And she created this painting, this mural, which is called... It translates to the magical world of the Mayans, basically.
El mundo magical de los Maya?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds right. Yeah, and so this is just a really significant, influential work of hers. I did think this one was interesting that they chose her to paint this mural.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody of Mexican indigenous lineage. But yeah, so that's just worth noting.
Mexicans like her.
Yeah, they do. It seems. I mean, at least I guess a handful of the ones that I've read online seem to. But I did just want to make note of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like her contributions to like Mexico and Mexican art history. She typically, though, would paint mundane and domestic spaces like kitchens or bedrooms and turn them into otherworldly dimensions. Oh. Which I think was a commentary on her like rejection of like where women are supposed to exist or how women are supposed to be or like what domestic really means.
Yeah.
Finding enchantment or magic in the mundane.
Very Mexican.
Yeah, that makes sense. She said, this is a quote from her, she says, "Houses are really bodies. We connect ourselves with walls, roofs, and objects just as we hang on to our lives, skeletons, flesh, and bloodstream. I am no beauty. No mirror is necessary to assure me of this absolute fact. Nevertheless, I have a death grip on this haggard frame as if it were the limpid body of Venus herself."
Wow.
She identified with being a mother, an artist, and an activist, and refused to sacrifice any of those roles. She was entirely committed to every single one of those, which felt also validating to me because I want to do so many things in life, and I often feel a pressure of like I have to pick one, but she didn't, and she did all of them really well.
You don't have to pick one. You do whatever the fuck you want.
Thank you. So all of that to say, Leonora Carrington was brave, unapologetically authentic, deeply connected to what I would consider to be the imaginal realm. She was devoted to her work and her family, and despite being overlooked at times, remains one of the most influential artists of the 20th century, especially in the surrealist and feminist movements. I'm happy to welcome her into our coven.
Welcome, Leonora. Amazing. Well, I think I can... Well, no, I can't. I don't know. Who would she be hanging out with?
I mean, Hilma af Klint from season 1.
Okay.
I wonder, like, they would have overlapped. Or maybe not. Hilma was turn of the century. Like, her paintings were in 1906. I think Hilma passed away in the 50s. But Hilma would have definitely been a precursor for Maya
Leonora.
But Maya Deren.
Oh, okay. Maya Deren. Yes.
Yeah. And again, kind of a similar time frame. And I wonder, very similar time frame. They might have been born in the same year, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And I wonder if they would have crossed paths at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they can hang out in our coven together.
Mm-hmm. I feel like she would really like Alice Coltrane, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. With all those, with Alice Coltrane's 12th house placements.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, randomly, they would get along really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Leonora.
Welcome, Leonora.
Do you have a hint at your person next week?
All I'm going to say is liminal spaces.
Sick. Yep. Makes sense.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
And another episode of Coven.
Bye-bye.